a year and a half ago, and the reason I wrote the book was it was about 2 years ago. I was called by KMOX, which is the radio station in St. Louis, and they asked me about the car. They were talking, it was the ride home. So I was doing a live interview over the phone with them, and it was the ride home. And they said there's the Cardinal way, which is the professional sports, the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's the culture of the Cardinals. They call it the Cardinal way. And they said in college in the state of Missouri, it's Tiger style. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that you even know about it. But they said, tell us what Tiger style is. And I said, man, we're gonna have a long drive home because there's a lot to tell you about. But I explained it to them and went through it and kind of was sitting around about a week later and started jotting things down. And I had been saving things and thought about writing a book because 15 years ago or so, I sat with my team and said, what's your ultimate goals? And they said, Coach, what are yours? And I said, I eventually want to write a book. And when you say something, they remember it. And of course, they would always be, how's that book coming? How's that book coming? And so I wrote the book. And I gave it as a speech first. And the speech was in St. Louis. It was a Tiger touchdown club or whatever, golf outing. And there was about 400 people that were playing golf and there at the banquet afterwards. And I gave them this talk and I got a standing O. So I was like, man, that's awesome, it went good. And I called my wife to tell her and she says, they were playing golf? And I went, yes. She goes, they were on the golf course drinking? I said, oh, they were drinking. And they were then sitting with you, and how long did you talk? I said, about an hour. And she goes, they were clapping because they had a pee, and they wanted to get the hell out of there, so they were just happy you were done. So that was my wife giving me a lot of support. But it's the 8 steps. I put it into 8 steps to create a culture, and this can be in anything. I mean, for you, this is my favorite group to talk to because it's coaches and how to create a culture. And if you don't think creating a culture is important in your program, then this isn't for you. But it's what we created at Missouri, and it's just it's been our success. And I don't know if this is going to work, so I'm going to see, but no, it's not going to work. Well, a person that is important that I told you is my dad. My dad's lessons were, he's taught me a ton of lessons, but one of them was he was very honest. And when I say he's honest, he got fired from a lot of high school jobs because he was honest with his principal and honest with his AD on what he felt and how their leadership was, and they didn't always agree with what he was saying with them, so he would get fired. So he would always say, I love that you didn't follow me. I am your mentor, somewhat a mentor, but you're not me. You've taken my good things, which is not when I say honest, not being honest with you would take time to think about what you're going to say to administrators, and now I'm on my 28th year at Mizzou. And so I always say it was the stairwell that saved me. There's a stairwell down to the offices, and by the time I hit the bottom of the stairwell, I'd be like, all right, this could probably wait another day, and by the next day, I wouldn't even tell them. So I was giving my first ever public speech at the University of Missouri was in a high school. It was the high school clinic like this. They had 400 high school coaches there, and I really wanted to do a good job. So I was pumped up to give this talk. I want to talk to my coaches, like Coach Ned was just up here talking to you, and I wanted to impress them. So I gave him this talk, sat down. At the end of the talk, I got a book handed to me, and it was called How to Be a Better Public Speaker. So I got the message that communication is an important part of my career, that I had to become a better communicator, a better speaker. So I just started speaking all over the state, anywhere I could, locally at Rotary clubs, and becoming a better speaker. As a high school coach, you're going to have to speak to people. You're going to have to speak to parents. You're going to have to speak to your AD, your principals, and even going out and speaking at Rotary clubs and all that to get support, to get business support in your program. So the other thing my dad, with his honesty, was he would call me. He's passed now, but he would call me after dual meets if we didn't wrestle well, and he would be honest with me, and he would say, did you recruit that guy? And I'd be like, all right, that's it. I'm not listening to you. So you're asking me about a kid that had a bad match. So I started, it's interesting that I wrote a book because in 5th grade I was thrown out of English class. And the reason I was thrown out of English class, because I was just an active child. And I would come off the playground and just be bouncing in the classroom. And you know, if you're a teacher out there, you know those type of kids. And Sister Mary Margaret's plan was to sit me in the convent, in the basement, in a room about the size of this stage with concrete walls around it and nothing, and a chair in the middle of the room. And that's what I was going to do for 2 weeks. My dad was the AD football coach, and he met with Sister Mary Margaret and said, we got to have a better plan than that. So they came up with a plan for me to read Sports Illustrated. So this is just, I mean, when I think back, I had a subscription to Sports Illustrated for like 35, 40 years because for 2 weeks I had to read and summarize. And I started thinking, man, I really enjoy this reading. And that reading became soon after that. I started reading sport books, history books. Now I have a library that all the student athletes use and coaches in the athletic department. That's 200-300 books in my office. And it's different types of books for kids to read, and I think reading is an important thing. So it's something that I think is, when I think now that I've written a book, it's where I came from. It was because of a mentor deciding, let's not just punish them, let's make them learn from it and do something positive. I do a lot of Mental Mondays with my team where we break into groups, and if I had you as a group, one of the Mental Mondays would be about what makes people uncommon. And when you think about it, to wrestle is really uncommon. Not everybody can really do this sport. They look at it like it's crazy. I have kids that run marathons. They go hiking up crazy mountains, and I say, why do people want to do that? And I split them into groups. One group would be, why choose to climb the highest mountain? All right, so why would you want to climb the highest mountain? The second group would be, if you choose to climb the highest mountain, what the heck do you need? And we go through, and the third group would be, you know, what are some of the other things that could happen if you're climbing the mountain and other things. And we go through this whole process where they go do this stuff, and they start to learn about leadership. Why do you want to be a leader? Why do you want to stand out in your school and do these things? Because I asked them to live an uncommon lifestyle. So when you hear the word Tiger Style, it is a lifestyle. It's not the way we wrestle. Some people think Tiger Style is the way Mizzou Wrestling wrestles. No, it's the way we live. And so when I start recruiting kids, I tell them, you're going to be uncommon. You're going to be doing things different. We expect you to be in the highest level degree program. We expect you, and some coaches won't do that. We expect you to want to be the best at things and want to do one-mores, and we talk about that. I really apologize that this isn't working, but there was a good PowerPoint that I'm looking at on my phone, but you don't get to see it. So when you think that what can hold you back from being uncommon, and when you think of kids in school, they don't really want to be uncommon because of fear, and it's fear of judgment. A lot of kids won't put on a singlet because of judgment. It's an uncool thing. But how do you overcome that? You have to become a better leader. You have to be wanting to stand, not afraid to stand out, and that's kind of what we are teaching with our Tiger Style. So the first thing that we teach is our identity. And I heard the speaker earlier talk about that. Number one is know your identity. And our identity is Tiger Style. And with Tiger Style, we write it, we brand it, we talk about it, there's stories to it. You have to, what is your identity of a program and what do you want it to be? For us, it's believe. There's 4 levels to Tiger Style. The first part is you see it between your ears. A kid may say, man, I see this vision. I want to be a state champ. Well, that's your belief. And your belief is going to drive you. And that belief is, I'm going to be a state champ. How do I do that now? I have to compete. So the second level of Tiger Style is compete. And competing is not Friday, Saturday. That is part of compete, but competing is, how long did you sleep for? What did you get up and eat? Mentally, how did you prepare yourself for practice? All those things are a part of the compete, everything you do. I only have 2 rules in the program, and so they have to accomplish those. Go to class, you can't miss a class, and you have to live Tiger Style. It's really that simple. I get new ADs that come in and they say, break down all your rules and policies, and I give them 1, live Tiger style, 2, go to every class. I added 3, see number 1. So it's, if I have a kid get in trouble, I don't have 45 rules that I have to go, all right, you have to do this, 1 strike, this. I just sit them down and say, are you living Tiger style? And they're like, no. All right, let's come up with something that you're going to do better. And they sit with me and they do that. Now, we've recruited kids in, so I get to pick my kids. So I've coached in high school. I don't always get to pick the kids I want. I get to recruit and choose the quality of a kid that I want, so they know they shouldn't be doing that and living that way. But we write down we have a mantra that I stole from JFK because I was a history teacher in high school, and my dad was a history teacher, so I followed a lot of great speeches and listened to them. And JFK gave a speech, I think it was in 1967, I may be wrong, but it was why choose the moon? And why choose to go up to the moon? Why in this decade would we do this and challenge ourselves when we have inflation and people are homeless and they have the same problems we have now? And he's like, why would we choose to spend billions of dollars on something we don't even know what it's going to accomplish? We're going to put a capsule on the moon, and what does that do for us? And he had to convince a nation to buy into this and believe it. And the reasoning he said is because mankind is best when they're trying to do the hardest things. So when they were trying to cross the ocean or be the first person to fly a plane, they are challenged, and those things were, and the best, when it brings out the best in your abilities when you do hard things. So we stole his speech, and that's our mantra is we choose Tiger style as a lifestyle, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. We choose Tiger style because its goals and expectations will serve to organize and measure the best of our abilities. Think about the best of our abilities and bring out our energies and skills that are best, because that is one, the print gets really small on this and Coach is old now. I'm supposed to be looking at a big screen, because that is one we are willing to accept and one we are unwilling to postpone, and one, I changed it, we expect to win. So when you think of that, that's our mantra. So one of our Mental Mondays is going through our mantra and talking about it. Do you believe this? Do you believe doing the hard things is going to make you better? Because there's going to be times I'm going to ask you to go through some hard practices, and your attitude about it's going to make a difference. And you have to think about that. I always think about, so that's our mantra, believe, compete. Then the third level of Tiger style is one more. And it's based on everybody in the program, including coaches, the trainers, the manager, the strength coach, can give one more extra thing during the week. When you think about that, sometimes it can be a daily thing, but can you do one more? And I told you we have shorter practices. Staying after is considered a one more, working on things. I always talk to my coaches, can you make one more recruiting call? Can you get one more booster call in there to raise money? To my athletic trainer who comes in, opens up the training room on Sunday when he's supposed to be off. He comes in for an hour to help guys that are injured. That's a one more. All these things, helping a teammate that's had a tough day, stay after with them and do a one more. Collectively, if we're doing a lot of one mores, our program's getting better. We're believing in it, we're competing for it, and we're doing one more for it. When you do that, you'll have the expectation to win. And it doesn't mean you're always going to win, but you're going to have a group of people that walk on the mat and truly believe they've put the time in right. They believed it, they've practiced for it, they've done more for it, and so their mindset is confident that they'll expect it. And that's, and I think of, when you think of developing your brand, I tell stories behind it. When I talk to corporations, you think of corporations, I think of FedEx. FedEx is what? The on-time delivery service, right? That means nothing to you. But if I tell you a story, and I give you a story, and I have tons of Tiger-style stories, but with FedEx, they're the on-time delivery. One of their delivery truck people had 3 deliveries still to be made, and their truck broke. So they were in a panic because this delivery person, it was a woman, she's like, man, I have to get these 3 deliveries done or I'm not upholding the service of FedEx. So what did she do? She went out on the road and waved down a UPS driver. And this is a true story. She waves down the UPS driver. The UPS driver looked at her like she's crazy, that I'm gonna help you deliver your package. She says, it's a couple blocks and this and that. And the person agreed to it, she gets it done. So now, of course, when you hear that story, the on-time delivery, and remember what this person did, she found a way to get it done, finding a way. And that's important. I think of the person, some other things. When you think of, you guys ever watch Shark Week? Right? I always go visit, I have family in Florida, I always go on Shark Week, and it's scary, I don't go in the ocean, because damn, every time I turn on the TV, there's people getting eaten by sharks. That's the theme of Shark Week, right? Think of the guy that went into a room, and you guys are my board, and I'm presenting to you an idea of a whole week of sharks eating humans. And that's how I present it to you, and you'd look at me and be like, this dude's crazy, right? But he believed in it, he had this vision, and he kept at it, and he found a way to make it happen, and next thing you know, Shark Week became a thing. And it's knowing that, but when you have this idea and you have the ability to brand it and get people to live it, it starts to take a life of its own. And that's, I think it's really important, having the ability to take a trip in your mind. You take this trip, and then it becomes this thought, and then it becomes the reality, and then it starts to happen. When you have a group, I see this with my team. When my team has better vision, so when you have vision, think of your best teams, right? When you have good teams, when you think of good teams, they have great vision. People with visions just have better what? Focus. Better focus. They have enhanced energy, because when they come to the room, I always talk about even when I was coaching high school, there were some matches that we had a really good team, and so when we had some lesser matches, they would come in with this kind of like, all right, we got practice this week, and then when we had the big match, they had this great enhanced energy, and I'm like, it can't be that way. It can't be that way for the big duel and not that way for the lesser duel. If you don't train the same way, it's not going to happen. So vision is that thing that I remind my guys, if your goal is to be an All-American national champ, it's got to be every day that way. And they're more productive when they have this vision. It increases your winning, obviously, because your vision creates the competition, which creates the one mores. It grows, I think it grows your business or grows your team. And it'll elevate your life. And that's some of the things that's happened with our team. It's elevated lives and it elevates yourself. So when you think about the Tiger style and the branding it, what's your Tiger style? Okay, what would be your Tiger style? Do you have that brand as a program that you can sell? I can stand up here and talk for hours about it. The second thing that we have to do is understand that small things win. So when I started at Missouri, it was the worst sports program there. They were talking about dropping it. They would literally had thoughts of, what do we have this program for? They're last in the Big 8, Big 12 at the time. They never win. They've never beaten certain schools. Why should we keep it? They had a 2.2, and they were fighting with the other teams. And so I was brought in to build a culture along with that culture winning. So the small things win. So I had to find, I couldn't win the first year, but I had to find a way to win in other things. So it was getting them to buy in to take the stairs. We're going to take the stairs as an elevator to the 4th floor, but you're not going to take it anymore. You're going to take the stairs. You're going to dress a certain way. You're going to be on time. You're going to go to every class. These are going to be the small victories that we're going to have happen. And of course, the GPA started to go up. The competition in the room started to get better, and it took 3 years. But it's creating a culture. And I think that was finding small things. Small things in my recruiting is like handwritten notes. You'd be shocked how many kids are amazed in families that we write handwritten notes to our recruits every week. And they're overwhelmed by it. We send them a graphic on the other side. That handwritten notes is a thing of the past, and kids love getting mail, and that we actually write it. Some kids don't even learn how to write anymore. So to us, they're like, maybe that makes us dinosaurs to them, but handwritten notes, but I go into home visits and I see those things hung up with the graphic and a note from one of my coaches or me. That's a simple thing. When I get a donation, the follow-through is so easy, but most people don't do follow-throughs. But thanking that person with a thank you note. Those are small things, but small things make the difference. Those handwritten notes that I've written to donors have turned into major, major gifts. Get everybody bought in to understand what they do contributes, and whether it's the smallest thing or the biggest thing. So one of the things as a program that no other program does at Mizzou, we help with the setup of the facility. And it's amazing how the facility guys love us. We give them t-shirts, so they wear the Mizzou wrestling t-shirts. Your janitor is an important person that plays a role in keeping your building clean. I mean, all those people. From my SID, I have a lot of people. I have about 14 people that are involved in our program. And I know every one of them plays an important part of us being successful. It reminds me of, have you ever, the number one, supposedly the number one ranked, I say because rankings, you know how that is. The number one cancer hospital in the US is the Anderson Hospital down in Houston. And I heard a guy talk about one time, and I was listening to it. His brother was in the hospital and was getting, was in stage 4, was in a bad place, but trying to survive, so he went to the best hospital. So he flies down to see his brother, and he's always heard this is the best hospital, this and that, but he's walking around, and as he's walking around to see what's going on at the hospital, he goes to the front desk, and he's like, "What do you do here?" And a couple ladies at the front desk looked up, and they both, and there was 2 or 3 of them, and they said, "We cure cancer." And he was like, "Whoa, they cure cancer? They work in the front desk." He walked down the hall, and he's walking down there, and he sees a guy mopping the floor, and he's like, "What do you do here?" And the guy looked up, and he says, "I cure cancer." And everywhere he went, it was "I cure cancer," because everybody played a role in that hospital. And you don't think that makes a difference why that's the number one hospital? Because there's a culture there that everybody believes they play a role in curing cancer. I don't just mop a floor. I play a part. By mopping this mat, I help Missouri win in wrestling. By cleaning the clothes, I keep them healthy from getting skin diseases. And I sit my staff down and remind them that these are small things, but it makes a difference. And so understanding that. Number 3 would be focus on what you have and not what others have. And think about that. Everybody always compares. I was at a table today, one of the tables, and they were talking about comparing. And I'm like, don't do it. I said, don't do it. I have a great picture. I wish I could show you. It's this beautiful home that's landscaped. And I lived on a cul-de-sac, and I'd have to go by Tom's damn house that's beautifully landscaped every day and say, "Damn, Tom," and he'd be out there. He changes his flowers by the season, and it looks really nice. And I'd get home, and Denise would say, "Why don't we have a house that's, landscaped like Tom's?" And I'd say, "Because I don't have a landscaper, and I'm good at coaching, and I'm not good at landscaping." So there you go, Denise. And you got to figure it out. So one day I'm away on a recruiting trip or a speaking gig, and I come back, and I'm driving down, I notice Tom's yard, and then mine looks awesome. And I go home, and of course my wife is like, "Yes." I said, "You did this?" She goes, "No, the landscaper. Here's the bill," but there you go. So don't compare, or you'll pay a bill for landscaping, but it's the same thing. I hear coaches at Mizzou saying Texas A&M has this, Alabama has a barber shop, and they're whatever, and all these things that you have to know your identity, know what you are. I know we weren't going to be in Oklahoma State or whatever programs, or Penn State, but what's the identity of Missouri wrestling and creating that? What's the identity of your neighborhood and where you're from, and build from that. And then I really believe what happens is you develop a cult that starts the culture, knowing what your identity. Ours is not because it's easy, it's hard. And we're going to do the hard things. We're going to go to every class. We're going to show up for practice and believe in what we're going to do. All those things. I have weekly meetings with my staff. So everything is, we have a purpose to the week. We do mental Mondays, where it might be like Monday, this next Monday, it's going to be how how do I prepare for a competition? So we're going to pull out our journals, and I'm going to say it's Thursday before the Sunday of a competition. Where do you want your weight? What are you eating? And prepare. What are you doing to cut weight if you needed to cut weight? Friday, who are you going with? Saturday's the day before, it's a make weight prep. We detail everything in there. To what music, who do you want to drill with? What are you going to do after a match? Because we have 3 duels that day. All these things, preparation and cool down. What am I bringing that I need to eat? Our director of ops has all the food in the locker room, but is that what you are going to eat? Everything is important to prepare that way. And so making sure they're focused on that. We have year-end meetings where I bring in my entire staff and we figure out everything we did that year and how do we make it a little bit better. I also ask them the question that is, what can I do to help you do something better, and what can I do better as a coach? And I make them critique me. And we're not afraid to critique each other. One of the other things we do in a practice situation is on our tough live days. We only wrestle twice a week live, but on the last one of the week, which is a Thursday or a Friday, we call it Tough Talk Thursday or Friday. And it's tough talk. If I'm wrestling with you, and we wrestled together for 20 minutes. After we cool down, we pull out our journals, our notebooks, and we tell each other, here's how I was getting to that single on you, and you weren't defending it this way. Here's what you can do. And we coach each other and critique each other. And it's tough. At first, it's a little awkward. As the season progresses, it's amazing how they're coaching each other up. And then next thing I see, they're doing one-mores. After we critique each other, they're back on the mat working on the things. So you don't end the day with a bad day. We call it end the day with a positive. We're never allowed to leave the room on a negative day. Think about that. How many kids leave your practice room on a negative day? They haven't had a good day. We have a rule in our program that's called end the day with a positive. So if you've had a tough day, or my teammates had a tough day, and I see it, I may have taken you down 30 times today and you're almost in tears. I'm like, come on, I'm going to work with you. Here's what you're doing, and you got to sprawl better, and you stay in, and that's called a one more. Helping somebody. So the other thing we do with focusing in on not what we have is focus on, we call them tiger-style behaviors. So anytime I get an email from a professor saying, man, I had one of your young men in class, unbelievable, love them, that's a tiger-style behavior. How many times have you stood in front of your team and told them all the things they're doing wrong? I always make it where we start a meeting, whether it's my staff or my team, we always start a meeting with recognizing a tiger-style behavior. So what that means is somebody brought their grade up from a C to a B. Hey, Billy brought his grade up, that's awesome. Or so-and-so visited the children's hospital, or these two have been staying after and working out. I love it. That's a tiger-style behavior. I had a kid the other day do an amazing thing. There was a mother with 2 or 3 kids screaming and yelling at a gas station, causing chaos, and she was trying to get out to pump the gas, and he had his thing pumping, and he finished, and he just opened up her thing, filled it up with his money, filled her tank up, and said, pay it forward. And she just looked at him, almost cried. She sent me an email saying, one of your young men, I think this is his name, she gave me his name, paid for my gas when I was in chaos. Man, that was just a beautiful thing to do. I really respect what your program. Just think how many people she's going to tell about that story. She's going to go and tell at least 10, 20, 30 people who are then going to tell people about it. And it's promoting your program. So when you think about that, those are tiger-style behaviors. There's so many times people will say, well, my AD, and this is high school, we don't have money for uniforms. We can't get new uniforms. There's always a way. There's a way to find it. Find people. Every person that I meet, if I'm sitting on a plane with somebody, I always try to get a business card or something. I add them to my email list. So all of a sudden they start getting emails on Missouri Wrestling. Well, I met that guy on a plane. That's pretty cool. Maybe in a couple months they may just be, from following it, make a donation. Maybe they'll if it's somebody in St. Louis, a couple hours away, they'll have an internship and say, Coach, I met you on the plane. Do you have any kids in engineering? So you just never know what it's going to come from, what can happen from a person that you're going to meet that has nothing to do with wrestling. I'm constantly finding people like that, finding a way to make a budget. I've done things where I was telling some people last night that I have a guy that does catering that's a former wrestler, so he does all the meals at my house for recruiting. That saves us hundreds of dollars a meal. He charges us basically costs because he wants to give back to the program. He's not giving money, but he's giving his time, and we're paying for the food, but he's not charging us to do. There's a way to figure it out. That's a way to help your budget. When I was recruiting Ben Askren, so Ben was like my first big recruit. There was a couple others, Tyron Woodley back in the first couple of years. But Ben was the one that changed the program. And it makes me think of the shoe story. And I'll tell you this story so you understand. There was this shoe company that wanted to sell shoes overseas in a third world country. So they go over, they send their best salesman, Tom. Tom goes over there. Tom's over there a week, nothing. 2 weeks, maybe an order or two. And after the third week, no orders. They're like, Tom, what's going on? And he's like, I'm going to come home. They don't wear shoes. So Tom comes home. So after a month or two, the owner's like, I'm going to send young Billy over there. Okay, let's send Billy over there. He's young. He doesn't sell him any shoes here, but he hustles. Let's send him out there. So Billy goes out there. A week goes by. Some orders come in. 2 weeks go by. A lot of orders start coming. In 3 weeks, they're getting orders like crazy. And the owner of the company, Billy, what the heck is going on out there? You won't believe it. They don't wear shoes. What's the difference in the remark of Tom and Billy? Zero. It's the same statement. They don't wear shoes. It's the mindset. The mindset of, so when Ben Askren, when I was recruiting him, I was like, Ben, we've never had a national champ. Think how awesome that is going to be when you become the national champ. Ben, we've never had an Olympian. We've never had a great team. We've never done any of these things. Guess what the coaches were telling them? Don't go there. They've never had a national champ. Don't go there. They've never had success. And of course, I found out that Ben liked Muhammad Ali. Here we are. A perfect city to talk about that. Every handwritten note I wrote him had a quote from him. Muhammad has a lot of quotes. So I sent him all these great quotes from Muhammad Ali, and he has the personality, you know this if you know Ben, the personality of Muhammad Ali, and he loved it. And he loved the idea of being that guy that's going to be the one that changes it, and proving all those coaches that said we didn't. And I sold him on that, just like the shoe salesman. Number 5, surround yourself with competitors. And when I speak to corporations and stuff, I said, if I took all of you outside and we played kickball, I would take the 10 most competitive people that are going to find a way to score, to find a way to win the game of kickball, screaming and yelling and all that, because I know they're going to find a way to make the sale. And I want that energy. And you can see that in people in different things. When I call a recruit up, I ask them not what their favorite class is, I ask them what their toughest class is. And if they tell me it's calculus or, AP calculus, I'll say, why? Well, I'm just not that good at math, but I'm trying to get an A in it, so I'm going. And if they tell me the teacher's not good and they make all these excuses why they're not getting the grade, then I know they don't have a growth mentality. But if they're like, I go in early, I'm working on things, I'm going to figure it out, that's the person I want in the program, because I know they'll do the same thing in wrestling. I try to recruit men who love to compete at everything. So when they walk in, whether it's kickball, whether it's wrestling, when Ben was in class, Ben was a 4-time academic All-American. I said, Ben, you're an academic All-American, you have like a 3.8 overall. He's like, well, you make me go to every class. If I'm going to go to the class, I'm going to do well in it. That was his mentality. If I'm going to be there, I'm going to do it right. And that's what made him special. And that's same thing with my team set a goal this year to have a 3.5 overall as a team. They had a 3.4 something last year. This year it's a 3.5. So part of our meetings every week are, hey, we have a couple guys struggling, and you know who they are, help them. Bring those guys up, help them. If you're good at those classes, tutor them, help them. They're getting tutors from other people, but you can help them. Having great leadership. They used to have a Tiger Cup. They still have this thing where they give this cup to the best team for athletics, academics, community service, and all this. and they used to have games where they would play each of the sporting teams at Mizzou in like ultimate frisbee, dodgeball, and when I think of, I went to a dodgeball competition with all the teams, all the sport teams at Mizzou, and I think we drew gymnastics first. And I was sitting in the indoor football, and there was a couple football coaches standing next to me, and I was like, all right, let's go. And my guys practice. They actually practice for these events. They'd be in the wrestling room practicing dodgeball, ultimate frisbee. They'd stay after practice and work on this. So they were prepared. They freaking blew that whistle in 30 seconds. There's gymnasts getting knocked backwards, and the game was over, and I'm like, hell yeah! And the football coaches looked at me, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with your guys? I'm like, I love these guys. This is competition. If they drew gymnastics, well, gymnasts have to compete. That's a part of it, and we showed up. But they think we're nuts, and so they canceled the competitions, because when it came to like ultimate frisbee, we're taking knees out of basketball players, so then there's a cost involved when you're hurting some of the big sports. So, but those are things. I think it's about embracing wanting to be the best is the purpose of surrounding yourself. And then there's other things of noticing the other intangibles, and we call it recognizing a tiger-style behavior. When I was recruiting Keegan O'Toole, I went to watch him. I knew he was going to win his 4th state title. I mean, I knew he was dominating through the whole season. He had won 3 titles already, so I went to just be there to see him win it. More impressive was what happened in the semifinals. He was pinning a guy. I hate not having a microphone on because I need to move. He's pinning a guy in a cradle, and he's looking over at his best friend who's pulling an upset. I was about to pull an upset off in the semifinals. And he's watching that more than his own match. He's literally pinning the guy, and he gets the pin, the referee's trying to grab him, and he could care less about getting his arm raised, and he runs over, and I'm filming this to send to my assistant, and he's hugging his teammate with joy. And I said, this is an intangible that's not at a combine or a thing. He cares about his teammates and is invested in his teammates. He's probably worked with that teammate to get him better throughout the season, and he was so overjoyed that he made the state finals. And that's not in the statistics or at the combine. You're not going to see that. So knowing that, creating an environment where they're learning. So we do those where we're using journals and doing tough talk Thursdays or whatever it may be, where kids are learning to teach each other. There's many a time I'll say in practice, here's the position, go. And we don't tell them what to do. And they get in it, and I want them to play and help each other, but we stay back for about 10, 15 minutes as coaches and let them play in it and figure things out. It's amazing what they come up with. Obviously, you're going to have some kids that don't even know what to do, so you're going to have to help them more. But I'm trying to create an environment where they have to learn, because if you watch me sitting in a corner, I know in high school I used to scream my mind out because you're like yelling moves to kids because they don't even know where they're at. But my guys know how to wrestle, and if I'm yelling a move to them, it's almost too late. And so they have to be able to figure out when they're in a match what they need to do to adjust. On the break, we'll do it, but developing competitors that can solve problems on their own is an important thing. It's a growth mindset, and that's something that's really important to our program. I think we're always first or second in the country in academic All-Americans because of this culture. So last year, I think we had 8 academic All-Americans. This year, we'll probably, when I look at our lineup, have at least 10, because every starter is very, very bright. And so we'll probably have all 10 of them. So it's just something that we strive for. The academic All-American board is right next to the All-American board, and that's an important thing that we prioritize in our program. Number 6, think right, speak right. And I have an awesome video I wanted to show you. We talk about thinking right. So when I got to Mizzou, the wrestling room is on the 4th floor. It was disgusting. It was this green paint. It was a small wrestling room with a practice gym for basketball, which we have taken over, and a gymnastics area, which we have taken over as an RTC. So we have an amazing facility now. But it wasn't great. But I had to treat it like it's going to be great, and we have this vision of it being great. So the first thing I said is we have to take the stairs up, but we have to take the stairs up And when people would ask me, where's your wrestling room? I would say, it's in the penthouse. It's in the penthouse. It's the top floor of the Hearns, right? And I see people going, nodding their heads, going, oh, the penthouse. And what's your vision of a penthouse? It's where the exclusive people live, the wealthy people, the awesome, penthouse up there. And that's what we started calling it. And eventually, it becomes the penthouse. If you've ever been to our facility, it's amazing. With 2 wrestling rooms, it's got its own weight room, it's got lounges, it's got everything in it that you could possibly need. It's probably 30,000, 40,000 square feet of space. And it became that beautiful penthouse. But when you think right, speak right, it's important. So that's thinking right. One of the things I tell my guys when they're walking up the stairs to practice is, what's your mindset? I want you to leave all the baggage behind you of the day. If you had a tough day in a class, or it's raining outside, it's cold, whatever, when you're walking up those stairs, your mindset should be on focusing on, what do I want to accomplish in practice? And by the time you hit the top of the stairs and you're hitting the doorway, you should be hitting that doorway like, man, here I am. I want to be here. I want to be great. And that's the way it's got to be. You got to be that way with that growth mindset. And we also do at the end of every week, I didn't know how it worked a few years ago, but I circle the guys up. And the last practice of the week, we circle and do Grateful Friday or Saturday. And it's amazing how many guys jump out in the center and thank teammates or coaches for things that they did for them that week. You'd be amazed at how good they feel when they leave that, because there's some kids that will probably never start for me, but they get recognized by guys like, hey, Joe over here came in to help me drill on something, and I helped him with something, but Joe coming in and helping me, I'm grateful for you. And about 8 to 10 guys come out every end of the week and do our Grateful Friday, so that gets us thinking right, speaking right, doing things right. And the video you didn't get to see of Keegan is he had lost 2 matches to David Carr at the Big 12 in the dual meet, all within a few weeks, and then a few weeks later the NCAAs, and he hadn't lost 2 matches probably in a long, long time in his career. And the announcer asked him, you were struggling going through this, and you go out in this match and you defeat him, what was going through your mind before that? And the first thing Keegan says is, I'm grateful to have David Carr make me better. Not that he hated David Carr, or, man, I can't stand wrestling David. He was grateful to his opponent that he made him, challenged him. What's our mantra? That not because it's easy, but because it's hard, because he truly believes in the mantra. And then he just goes on to then say, then I got it back into the practice room, and I'm so grateful to my coaches who were working with me and getting me to believe that I can make this happen. So everything was grateful, thankful to coaches, thankful to my opponent. It's an amazing talk of, when we think of thinking right, speaking right. And I think wherever you find excellence, you will find continuous learning. And that's something he learned from that. So, where are we at? I wish I could play you that video. I'm trying to see if it'll play on my phone and I can put it over the microphone. But never be satisfied is number 7. And I'll just tell you a quick story that my dad, I told you I didn't start wrestling until 9th grade. And so in 10th grade, I finally made the varsity. I got my first win over a kid that placed in the state the year before down in Florida. So I was like, man, I am the man. I am the man. I went home. I had a sister there with her friends, so I was strutting around in the kitchen like, I'm the guy. I got the bit. You guys see that? You were there? Yeah, that was me. I beat that state placer, and I was thinking I was really awesome until I looked up and saw my dad, and he's over in the corner, and he just had this scowl on him, looking at me, strutting around, and he starts walking towards me, and he comes right into my face, and he's like, are you satisfied with that? And I'm like, damn. Don't answer wrong, because he's going to yell at you if you answer it wrong. So I'm like, let's go with no. So I go, no? He goes, damn straight you better not be, because while you're strutting around here with your sister's friends and goofing off, he's out training to beat you right now. So, he's working, he believes in it, and you've motivated him, and you're strutting around the kitchen. So I'm like, okay. So of course I went and got a workout in. But it made me realize that we've had a lot of good years of success. But even in those good years, we're at the end of it, driving home from the NCAAs, writing down, how do we get better? What can we do better? How can I do better? Even one of the meetings where we meet with the 14 people, my team doctor owns an orthopedics center. And he's like, man, when I recruit high-level doctors, here's how I recruit them. Will this help you recruit more high-level wrestlers? And by having that information, it helped us. It helped us get better. So people helping each other. So never being satisfied. Even when you'll see that with kids, when they start winning, they're still making mistakes, and they have to notice that. They still can get better. And being hard on, I remember even thinking about think right, speak right, but with this never being satisfied. Keegan O'Toole is really tough on himself. He's a perfectionist. And he was walking out of the practice room a couple years ago, and I'm like, how did practice go, Keegan? And I hate to say this, but he said, I suck today. And I'm like, okay. he probably got taken down twice or something, and he was miserable about it or whatever. And I'm like, let's stop and change that. How can you change that, and be better with it? And he went, you're right. So he took a deep breath, and he goes, I was challenged today. I was challenged today. I said, yes, you should be happy that you were challenged today. Get back in there and work on it. So doing those things, never being satisfied. The Tough Talk Thursdays help too, recognizing Tiger-style behaviors, but helping us grow, all these things. And then, of course, the eighth thing that happens that develops this culture is expect to win. That when you do these things, you find a way, you don't compare, you have a mantra, you have this belief that people are believing. All these things, the 7 steps before, develop confidence in your athletes. And my athletes now are graduating, going to med school, going to law school, going to all these top-level things, and competing at the highest level and becoming All-Americans. And we're the most respected program at Mizzou for that. Our AD knows our culture is the best. Our state knows that Tiger Style is a culture that works. Our community knows that because we brand it, we write it down, all the things I was teaching them, that's really important. Repetitions towards self-discipline, you start to believe that you can accomplish great things, and that's what I'm doing with young men. Repetition of doing this and living this lifestyle. Be the model of the team values that everyone can see, everyone competing for it each day by caring and growing relationships, and you'll see that. This year we had to take a look at why we had all these injuries and why we didn't win as much. And the whole summer we spent 1 week, every week the 7 leaders would come to my house and eat. We were reading a book together and having discussion on how we can make the team better. Then they would go out and have a team meeting or gathering off campus and do things as a team to grow the relationship, to get to know each other better, and to become a better team. And we think that's important. By caring, relationships grow, people will do more for you. You always hear that, how do you get a kid to run through a wall? You get them to believe in you. And so that's important. It's not a noun, it's a verb. You have to live it. And so we're constantly preaching you have to live Tiger Style. And obviously you can put this in your high school program. I want to thank you. To remember with leadership too. And I had to learn this when I was younger. It was more about X's and O's. How do I get them to perform in wrestling? And then I realized that if I can get them to perform in life more, I'm going to have better wrestlers. That it's not always the person with the loudest voice. It's the person that gets them to live this lifestyle that's going to accomplish more. And that's something I've learned as a coach over these 36 years. And my challenge to you is, as coaches, what's your Tiger Style? Everybody has this, we're good at singles and this, but what's your Tiger Style? What's your culture of your program? And are you going to create that so when people come to your community and they say, man, whatever your Tiger Style is, man, that's something special. And it's something you have to work out constantly. But I appreciate your time. Do you have any questions about it? I really apologize that it didn't work up here because I had some really cool videos. One of the things we had to do to find a way was find a way to get fans. And people say you can't fan. I basically started indoor illegal tailgates. I can say that now because it's been a long time. But our mat side seats just sold out the other day. We used to go get parents that we were friends with from our kids at school, people at our church, my neighbors, invite them in to come to watch. We had this room off the side of our arena that we'd bring people in, and we'd have beer and stuff, and it was a tailgate before the matches, and it grew from 10 people to 20 people to 100 people and pretty much, and we were actually wrestling on a track with 3 sets of metal bleachers. This is a Big 12 school, and I was embarrassed by it. When the other schools would wrestle us, they'd be like, man, you got 100 fans here. It grew and grew, and as we got better kids that bought into the culture and started to win, attracting other kids to where I think we averaged over 3,500, 4,000 fans last year. We have dual meets with 6,000 to 7,000 people there, and it grew from that because we found a way. So these are just things that I think if you follow these 8 steps, you're going to be successful in anything you choose in life. So I have the book. I don't know if they bought the book for you, but where is Spencer at? Who gets the books? And then if you don't get a book, I'm selling them for $10. You just have to Venmo me, and I'll get that out here soon.
If you come tomorrow,
You get the book.
and then we're going to give away 5 for the coaches and 5 from the KWOA.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
So if you don't get one of those 5 and you're not going tomorrow, then we get with Coach Smith if you can purchase one.
I really hope you'll take this. If you took some notes or got some, you learned something, take one thing and bring it back to your program and really develop that culture. Appreciate your time. Thank you.